I took in my homeless sister after her divorce. Now she's trying to replace me in my own family. When my sister Emily showed up at our door with 2 suitcases and a tear-streaked face, I didn't hesitate. She was going through a brutal divorce. Her husband of 10 years had cheated on her with someone from his office, and the divorce proceedings were messy, expensive, and soul-crushing. I didn't even think twice. "Stay as long as you need," I told her. My husband, Dan, gave me a look, not quite disapproving, but definitely cautious. We'd never lived with anyone else before. It was just us and our 2 kids, Ava, 12, and Max, 9, and I'll admit, I liked our little bubble. But Emily was blood. And blood comes first, right? The first few weeks were fine. Emily was quiet, respectful, always helping around the house. She cooked dinner twice a week, picked up the kids from school, even helped Dan paint the garage, which had been on his to-do list for months. At first, I was relieved. I thought, she's really trying to get back on her feet. But then things shifted. It was little things at first. The kids started going to her more than me with school stuff. Ava would say things like, "Auntie Emily helped me with my essay," or "Emily said we can get pizza tonight." Max asked if she could come to parent-teacher conferences since she explains things better than Mom. Dan didn't say anything directly, but I noticed he started having more and more conversations with her. In the kitchen. On the porch. Once, I walked in from work and saw them laughing together in the living room while the kids watched TV. It wasn't flirty or inappropriate, not at first, but there was something about the way he looked at her. Like she was easy to talk to. Like he missed that ease with me. Then there was the dinner. It was a random Thursday night, and I came home late from work. Emily had cooked lasagna, my favorite. The table was set. Candles. Wine. The kids were already upstairs doing homework. Dan smiled when he saw me, but Emily stood up, beaming like she was the wife welcoming her husband home. She even said, "We started without you, but there's a plate waiting." I don't know what it was, the way she said it, the way Dan laughed, but my stomach twisted. That night, I barely touched my food. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. I'd wake up and find her already in the kitchen, making Dan's coffee exactly how he likes it, a splash of oat milk and 1 sugar. I hadn't made it for him in months, sure, but still. It felt wrong. Like she'd memorized his preferences. She started wearing nicer clothes around the house too. Not inappropriate, but purposeful. Like she wanted to be seen. Tight jeans. Fitted shirts. And Dan noticed. I saw him notice. One morning, as I was about to head to work, I heard Ava ask, "Can Auntie Emily come to my school play instead of you?" She said she used to do theater, too. My heart sank. I said I couldn't make it that night, lied, told them I had to stay late at work. I just didn't want to see Emily take my seat. Not again. Dan didn't notice how distant I was. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He was laughing more with her. Spending more time at home. One Saturday, I suggested we go out, just the 2 of us, date night, like old times. He hesitated. Emily already said she'd make dinner for the kids. Why don't we all just eat in? The kicker? He forgot our anniversary. First time in 15 years. Emily didn't. She made us breakfast that morning. Pancakes shaped like hearts. "Happy anniversary," she said, winking at me. I wanted to throw the plate across the room. Then came the final straw. I overheard her talking to Dan late one night when I was supposed to be asleep. Her voice was soft, low. "You've been so amazing through all of this. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're not like other men. Not like him." Dan said something I couldn't make out. Then she laughed. I stood there in the hallway, heart pounding, hands shaking. She was replacing me. And I let her in. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed beside Dan, listening to his steady breathing, pretending I wasn't wide awake, my mind racing. Every moment replayed itself like a horror movie in slow motion. Emily's laugh, her voice, the way Dan had smiled at her lately. I had let a snake into my home, and now she was slowly tightening around everything that mattered to me. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I started paying attention, watching, listening. I checked our shared Google Calendar. Dan had deleted our couple's therapy sessions. Just erased them. No explanation. When I brought it up casually over dinner the next night, he just shrugged and said, "I figured we were in a better place now." Were we? Emily started sitting in the passenger seat of our car when we'd go out. I noticed that shift. I'd end up in the back with the kids while she and Dan chatted up front like some co-parenting dream team. The kids loved her, which made it worse. They didn't see what she was doing. They just saw someone who listened, who laughed, who always had time for them. Meanwhile, I was working 50 hours a week trying to hold everything together. Then she crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I came home from work one day and found her in my closet. Not borrowing clothes, no, she was rearranging it. Organizing my shoes, refolding sweaters, lining up perfumes. She looked up and smiled like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I thought I'd help you get this space sorted. You're always so busy." I stared at her. "This is my space." She just laughed, waving her hand like I was overreacting. "Oh, come on, you're always saying you don't have time for this stuff." That night, I locked the door to our bedroom for the first time in years. A few days later, my daughter Ava came into the kitchen while I was making breakfast. She looked uncomfortable, twisting her fingers. "Mom, can I ask something?" "Of course," I said. She hesitated. "Did Auntie Emily and Dad ever date before you?" My blood ran cold. "What? No. Why would you think that?" She shrugged. "They're just really close." And she said something weird. Like how sometimes life brings the right people together at the wrong time. I dropped the spatula. Dan was out in the garage. I marched straight to him, heart thudding in my ears. "What's going on between you and Emily?" He blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "Nothing." "What are you talking about?" I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just looked at him and said, "She's acting like your wife, Dan. And you're letting her." He rubbed the back of his neck. "She's going through a lot. I'm just trying to help." I wanted to believe him. I needed to. But something had shifted in his voice, a defensiveness that wasn't there before. Or maybe I had ignored it for too long. That night, I called my mom. She always said Emily was a charmer. She likes being the center of attention, Mom had once told me, years ago, after Emily's wedding. But she only plays sweet when it benefits her. I had dismissed it back then. Now I couldn't unsee it. The final blow came the next weekend. I had to work a Saturday shift, and Dan promised he'd take the kids to the park. When I came home, I expected to find them all in the living room, maybe watching a movie. Instead, it was just Emily. Wearing my robe. Drinking wine from my favorite glass. She didn't even look surprised. "They went out for ice cream," she said. "Dan said you were working late again." I stared at her. "Take off my robe." She laughed, but slowly stood and slipped it off, folding it neatly. Like she'd already won this game and was just humoring me. That night, I searched her things. I know. I shouldn't have. But I had to know what I was really dealing with. Her suitcase was still under the bed in the guest room. Inside, I found a journal. One entry stood out. It was dated a week ago. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I'd ended up with Dan instead of Mark. He sees me. He listens. I make him laugh. I think he needs someone like me, not someone always tired, always distant. I sat on the floor of that room for a long time, shaking. Emily didn't just want a place to stay. She wanted my life. And I wasn't going to let her take it. I didn't sleep again. I stayed up rereading that journal entry until the words blurred together. My heart was pounding, but not just from betrayal, from clarity. I finally saw Emily for what she was. Not a grieving sister looking for refuge. Not a harmless guest. She was a manipulator. A strategist. And I had led her right into the heart of my family. But here's the thing, now that I knew, I started noticing more. Her mask had cracks I hadn't seen before. Like how she always managed to have a glass of wine with Dan after I went to bed. How her compliments toward me were always laced with condescension. You're so strong to keep working with everything going on. I could never do that. I started documenting everything. I took photos of her journal pages. I recorded conversations when I could. I wanted proof. Not just for Dan, but for myself, so I wouldn't second-guess what I already knew. Then, I started testing her. I left my phone recording on the kitchen counter one morning while I ran to the store. When I came back and checked the audio, I nearly dropped it. She had called someone. A man. I could hear her laughing. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. She's barely here. And he's basically mine already. The kids adore me. Honestly, I don't think he'd even fight it if I made a move. She paused, then whispered, "No, I'm not in a rush. Let her burn herself out first. She's doing all the hard work for me." I felt sick. This wasn't just some misguided crush or emotional entanglement. Emily was planning this. Calculating it. So I made a plan. I didn't say a word to Dan. I needed to catch her without warning. Let her dig her own grave. That night, I asked Dan to take the kids out to dinner, just the three of them. "You've barely had time with them," I said. "They miss you." He looked touched, surprised. "You sure?" "Absolutely," I said, smiling. The moment they left, I walked into the guest room. Emily was on the bed, texting. She looked up, surprised. "Hey! I thought you were working late." I shut the door. "We need to talk." She sat up slowly, suddenly cautious. "Okay, what's going on?" I pulled out my phone. Hit play on the recording. Her face turned white. "That's illegal," she snapped. "Maybe," I said. "But it's also very enlightening." She stood up, defensive now. "You're overreacting. You're twisting things." I was venting. Everyone vents. To a man? About stealing my husband and replacing me in my children's lives? She didn't answer. I took a deep breath, voice steady. "You have 48 hours to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay. I don't care where. But you're leaving this house." Her eyes narrowed. "Dan won't let you." That made me laugh. "Funny. You're banking on Dan defending you, when I haven't even told him anything yet. You're playing poker with no cards, Emily." She clenched her fists. "You think he'll pick you over me? You've been absent for months. Cold. Distant. He needs warmth." I gave him that. "You gave him poison dressed as comfort," I snapped. "And I let you because I felt sorry for you. But not anymore." She didn't say a word as I walked out. That night, Dan came home and noticed something had shifted. I could see it on his face. "You okay?" he asked as he kissed my forehead. "Getting there," I said. "I think we need to talk. Just us. Tomorrow." He nodded, confused. "Okay." Emily didn't come out of her room that night. But I wasn't naive. I knew she wasn't going to go down quietly. And I was right. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen, coffee in hand, smile back on her face, like nothing happened. But I could see it in her eyes now. She was planning something. And I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The next few days felt like walking through a minefield. Emily didn't leave. In fact, she became even more present. More polite. More helpful. She'd make coffee for Dan in the mornings. Offer to watch the kids when I was working. She even cleaned the garage, which had been a mess for years. To anyone watching from the outside, she was just the perfect sister-in-law, supportive, sweet, generous. But I saw the way she looked at me when Dan wasn't around. There was venom behind that smile now. She knew I had the upper hand, and she hated it. But she wasn't done yet. One evening, I walked in on her sitting with Dan on the back porch, talking quietly. I couldn't hear much at first, but I caught one sentence as I stepped closer. "I just don't want to see you get hurt, that's all. She's been so cold to you lately. Like you're just a roommate." Dan looked uncomfortable, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's just stress. Work. The kids." Emily gently touched his arm. "I know. I just want you to be happy." That was my limit. I opened the door. "Everything okay out here?" Dan jumped slightly. "Yeah, just talking." Emily smiled, sweet as syrup. "We were just reminiscing." I told him about that summer we all went to Lake Tahoe. I said, not even trying to hide my tone. "I'm sure it was nostalgic." Dan looked between us. "I'm gonna check on the kids." As soon as he was gone, I turned to her. "You really don't know when to quit, do you?" She shrugged, still smiling. "I'm just talking. I can't control how he feels. You're manipulating him. He deserves someone who sees him. And you think that's you?" Her expression shifted. "You're not the woman he married anymore." I laughed, shaking my head. "Neither are you, because the woman he married wasn't you." That hit a nerve. "You don't get it," she hissed. "You stepped away from him for months. You left space. I just filled it." "You engineered that space," I said. "You played the long game. You moved in, waited, and pounced. But you underestimated me. You thought I'd stay quiet. That I'd break. I thought you'd be smarter," she snapped. "You can't keep a man by guilt-tripping him into staying." I stepped closer. "I don't have to guilt Dan into anything. But I am going to tell him everything. Tonight." Her face froze. "You wouldn't." "I would. And I will. I have the recording, the screenshots from your texts, even photos of the pages in your journal. I wanted proof, Emily, and I got it." For the first time, she looked scared. That night, I waited until the kids were asleep. Dan and I sat in our bedroom. I pulled out my phone, heart racing, and told him everything. At first, he didn't believe me. He defended her. "She's been through so much. She's trying her best." I played him the recording. Then showed him a photo of her journal entry that read, "If I can get him to see me, really see me, she won't stand a chance." His face changed. He looked stunned. Hurt. Betrayed, but not just by her. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he whispered. "Because I wanted to be sure. I didn't want to ruin your relationship with your sister over a gut feeling." He shook his head, breathing heavily. "I can't believe she." "I can," I said quietly. "Now you have to decide what to do about it." He didn't say much after that. He just sat there, staring into space. The next morning, she was gone. No goodbye. No note. Just gone. Dan didn't say anything. Neither did I. We didn't need to. But a week later, I got a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." And that's when I realized she hadn't given up. She was just regrouping. And the worst was yet to come. I stared at the text for a long time. This isn't over. Short. Cold. Terrifyingly certain. Emily had always been manipulative, but now she felt dangerous. It wasn't just jealousy or resentment anymore. It was vengeance. And I knew her well enough to realize she wasn't someone who took rejection lying down. Dan was quiet for days after she left. He went to work, helped with the kids, but emotionally, he was distant. I couldn't blame him. Everything he thought he knew about his sister had just been shattered. And the worst part? He still didn't know the full extent of what she had done. I debated telling him the rest, the forged emails she'd sent from my account to our mutual friends, the subtle rumors she'd spread, the way she tried to isolate me from our support system. But something held me back. I didn't want him to break. Instead, I decided to protect what I could. I changed all my passwords. I checked the house for any hidden devices or cameras. I updated the kids' school contact lists and added a note to never release them to anyone but me or Dan. Just in case. And I blocked her number. But that didn't stop her. A week later, my mom called me in a panic. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, why?" "I just got a message from someone claiming you and Dan are getting divorced and you're spiraling. Is everything okay between you two?" My stomach dropped. "Who sent that?" It was anonymous. No name. But it mentioned Emily. Of course it did. She was trying to turn my own family against me. I started getting weird friend requests, strange DMs from people I didn't know, some calling me a cheater, others saying I was abusive. One even said, "He deserves better than you." It was all her. And Dan finally started to see it too. He came home one night with a stunned expression. "My coworker pulled me aside today. Said someone messaged her, claiming you were having an affair." What? She didn't believe it, but it's spreading. Someone's been messaging people I know. People we both know. I was shaking. "She's trying to destroy me." "She's trying to destroy us," he said quietly. "And she's not stopping." We sat in silence for a long time. Then he finally said the one thing I'd been waiting to hear. "We have to go to the police." I nodded. "And we need a lawyer." We gathered everything, every message, every recording, every screenshot. I gave a full statement to the police. They were cautious, said it was hard to prove direct harassment since she was staying in the shadows, but they took it seriously. And then Dan's mom called. "Emily's in town." "What?" "She came by earlier today. Said she wanted to make peace. She left me a letter for you." Dan picked it up from her house. It was written in her usual flowy handwriting. "You've always taken what's mine. My parents. My brother. My place in this family. But you can't have all of it. Not forever." Dan handed me the letter with a haunted look. "She's not done, and she's not well." He was right. She wasn't just angry, she was unraveling. And no restraining order or block number was going to stop what was coming. Because Emily wasn't done yet. And the next move she made would cross a line that no one could ignore. It was a Thursday afternoon. Sunny. Peaceful. I had just picked up the kids from school. They were in the living room, arguing over what cartoon to watch. I was in the kitchen, phone in hand, finally feeling like maybe things were settling. Emily had gone quiet. No new messages, no fake rumors, no mysterious calls. Just silence. Too quiet. I was pouring juice when I heard the knock. Not the doorbell. Just knocking. Slow. Repetitive. 3 knocks. Then silence. I walked to the door and checked the peephole. No one. But something caught my eye, a small black object placed right in front of the welcome mat. I opened the door slowly. A flash drive. No note. No envelope. Just the drive. I didn't touch it. I called Dan. He was already on his way home, and within 20 minutes he arrived, along with a friend of his who worked in cybersecurity. We plugged the drive into a secured laptop. What we found was worse than I could have imagined. There were folders. Each named after people we knew. Inside, screenshots. Messages. Audio clips. Photos. Some real. Some edited. Every piece of it crafted to make me look like a liar. A manipulator. A cheater. Even an unfit mother. There was a voice recording labeled final_proof.mp3. When we played it, we both went still. It was my voice. But it was fake. I was saying things I never said. Horrible things. Spliced together from voicemails, old phone calls, and God knows what else. It sounded just real enough that someone who didn't know better would believe it. Dan's friend looked shaken. This is AI manipulated. But done well. Like, professional level well. Emily had gone beyond gossip and rumors. This was character assassination. And the worst part? At the very end of the recording, you could hear her voice. Just a whisper. Now let's see if your little perfect world survives this. That night, Dan and I sat on the bed, exhausted. He had his arm around me, but I could feel the tension in his whole body. He looked at me with this hollow expression and said, I used to think I knew who she was. But now, I honestly think she wants to ruin you because she's jealous of everything you are. We filed another police report. This time, with hard evidence. The tech expert helped us write a full incident report. We handed over the flash drive. We even reached out to a lawyer to talk about filing a civil suit. But it wasn't over. Because a few days later, Dan's phone buzzed with a new voicemail. It was Emily. She sounded calm. Controlled. Polite, even. I just wanted to say goodbye. I think it's finally time I move on. You were always too blind to see what she really is, but that's okay. I did what I could. Maybe someday, you'll thank me. Dan stared at the phone for a long time after that. We haven't heard from her since. But the damage she left behind still lingers. We're healing. We're rebuilding trust. But there are days I still check over my shoulder. Days I still wonder what she's planning next. Because with someone like Emily, silence doesn't mean peace. It means she's waiting.